So 2013 has been a busy year for camera companies and for photographers and all that kind of stuff. Here's a couple of things which I thought kind of paid attention to this year. So out of all the cameras that released, in fact, if you want to see all the cameras that released, a good site is dpreview.com. And then where did I go? I went to camera reviews, and what you can do there is scroll through all of them by date, and it'll tell you. So this is usually when they've actually done the review of it. So it may not exactly be the first day that it was released, but it's roughly the time. You can see you're scrolling down for quite a while until April, January. So a lot of cameras came out in 2013. Yet so far I've still not seen anybody with a Canon 6D, the full frame Canon camera. I've seen it in reviews, but I've not seen anybody in the UK actually having one. Everyone's still talking about the Canon 5D Mark III. So the 6D kind of got forgotten by a lot of people in terms of people that I've met or seen or discussed with on forums on Facebook or on other stuff. Fuji played around with more X cameras, the EX1, the EXS, the something 100 and S and all that kind of stuff. And it's now just kind of like, for me already, Fuji's now kind of got like, what is that? I forgot which one is important. They had the Canon EX Pro 1. Which was like their big boy, and then they also had the 10, which is now the 20, and then the 100, which became the 100S, and now there's the XE1, and they've kind of gone, oh, loads of cameras. Everyone's like, well, no, give us better lenses. The cameras are awesome already. Let's just see if you can give some better lenses with that. So Fuji, chill out on the new camera tech, bring out some awesome lenses that go with it. Nikon brought out the Coolpix A, which I ripped on, which I'll put a link to in the video below, just saying, why would you buy that? And Sony also brought out a ridiculously high-priced RX1, and then also the RX1R cameras, which had fixed lenses on it. So it's just like, oh, you can't really change the lenses, that sucks as well. So this year certainly seemed to be for the expensive, fixed lens and non-zooming lens, small in your hand cameras. I don't have sale figures on that so far. I do remember whenever the Sony RX1 first came out, it was on Amazon #2 list of most bought cameras that day, obviously because it was the first camera out that day or something like that. So it wasn't really a good representative. But I'd be surprised really if many people are going, there you go, there's £2,000 for that limited use camera. Sony at least definitely thought outside of the box or the book or outside of, what do? Outside of the something, with its thing which you just attach to your camera phones, and then you don't use your camera phone's camera and you use this thing which is like a big thing on the side, which then Wi-Fi's it to the camera, which is right beside it, which was, what was it, the QX100, God, give them easier names, call it like the Sony Cybershot Bob, you know, people would remember that shit, not the DSC-QX100, I'm sure there'll be a 100SX blah 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 in the future, snore. Oh, and Fuji also brought out the XM1, okay, so there's just Fuji, too many cameras. And then here's another one, the Fuji XQ1, missed that one, and the XE2 as well. So within a year, they'd already upgraded their camera within a year. That's a bad move in terms of camera longevity and customer loyalty. I always say if a camera company pumps out too many cameras too often, it looks like they didn't put the right amount of tech, or they weren't at least kind of advancing their tech as far as they could from the outset. And also it means that people think, well, if I don't buy it this month, there might be another one next month. As the thing with Nikon, certainly, and Canon for a while, it was a case of you bought the Nikon D200 and you'd be waiting 4 years until the D300 came out. And when it came out, I was like, that's brilliant! Same with the Nikon D3, then the D3S, and then the D4. There was always a good 2.5 years worth in between the cameras. Okay, we're talking about different levels here, but at the same time, if Fuji are trying to kind of go, look, we're different, we've got cool retro looking ones here, and they're amazing kind of image quality, great, but why are you changing them every so often? Why can't you not just change firmware which we could all upgrade straight away? I would say probably the most underrated one was the Canon EOS 70D, which had new things on it. New focusing things. Look them up. It also had a 20 megapixel sensor. Thank God Canon finally did a new sensor for their kind of prosumer cameras there, because they've been using the same 18 megapixel camera in the 550D, 60D, 600D, 650D, 700D, probably some other ones as well. And the last one, probably the most notable one, was the Nikon DF, the old school looking one, which ended up having a lot of buttons on it, an amazing sensor, and seemingly if you go onto DxO Mark and you look at their sensor ratings that they do there, it's absolutely humped even the D4 in terms of image high ISO, low noise ability. Interesting, don't quite know how that works, but that's a cool thing to have. Another thing which was quite interesting was just this year was how much Adobe fucked off everyone. With first of all, bringing out the Adobe Creative Cloud. So you now never own your own software and you're constantly just renting it from Adobe, and you need to constantly keep sending messages via being online to Adobe to sync. So in other words, if you don't have an internet connection, you have no software to edit either your videos or your photos. But at the same time, if you do, and you do go into the Adobe Creative Cloud thing, you get a lot of products for a lot less money, which is good. However, slight issue was that Adobe either got hacked or leaked all its passwords, and not just the 2 million passwords the way it said it did, but it seems like you had 150 million passwords, which could also have been bank details. In fact, I got a letter from Adobe saying, "Hi, yes, sorry, we lost your details. Please keep a look on your bank account just in case anything odd starts to happen." So just like, oh, fuck. So Adobe just now doing lots of kind of discounts, going, oh yeah, you can get us even cheaper. Give us your bank details. And I'm just like, I would rather go into a shop with some money, go, there you go, walk away from the shop going, I have the camera, no, I have the software, I'm going to go use it in my computer anywhere I want, rather than going, I need to be online and my bank details are just being given away. One of the most badass lenses which came out this year, I would definitely be saying, was the Sigma 18-35 f1.8. I don't know if there's any other 1.8 zoom lenses and is an 18-35. It is for just the crop frame sensor cameras, so something like the Nikon D300 or the D7100 or the Canon 70D, 600, 800, 850, you know what I meant. And so that was an incredibly fast lens with, okay, not a huge amount of zoom, but wide angle. 18mm is the equivalent of about 28mm in full frame terms and all that stuff. But otherwise, just like, ooh, thinking out the box there, Sigma. Good work. Nikon also came out with possibly the most incredibly expensive lens, which nobody was really asking for, which was the Nikon AFS Nikkor 58mm f1.4G lens. Ooh, lots of letters and numbers there. So in other words, you can get a Nikon 50mm f1.8 for about under £200, maybe 180. If you were to go back to the D lenses, you can get it for like 80 quid. If you were to pump up the money and go for the 50mm f1.4, you can get that for around about 350. If I can find a link, I'll put it down below. If you then want to go get the Nikkor 58mm, so 8mm extra more, you're going over £2,000. Ouch. I'd also say Nikon really tested, oh wait, they're still selling the D600 along with the D610. The 610, which is effectively the camera which they brought out, just kind of going, oh, we fucked up something in the last camera, but we can't be bothered fixing it, so we're just going to bring out a whole new camera and sell that instead. So in the Nikon D600, whenever that came out, there's lots of problems with oil and just grease getting on the sensor, which everyone's like, oh my god, that's terrible. But Nikon was like, no, there is no problem. There's nothing wrong here. Get on with your life. But here's a new camera which doesn't have that problem, which doesn't exist. And so far, all the tests so far on the Nikon D610 doesn't seem to have any problems which the D600 had. So if you're going to be getting a full frame, relatively cheap high megapixel camera, go for the D610, not the D600 at any point, or just save an extra couple £100 and go for the D800. So in the end, there was no Nikon D400, which is what everybody wants. There was no Canon 7D Mark II. There was obviously the Canon 5D Mark III, and there were lots of other cameras which kind of came out which nobody really paid attention to. So for me, I would say the market really is Nikon and Canon still own everything. Sony is doing well with the new things that's coming out. Its smaller camera which came out, hold on, the Alpha A7 and the A7R, very small body, very powerful amount of guff that it's got inside, so like great sensors and all that stuff. However, small battery life. Anyway, but not an issue. Much smaller than, for example, the Nikon DF. Sony, I think, definitely have upped their game in terms of what they're giving their customers. And I would say if you are brand new to the photography industry or to learning photography, I would say value for money wise, Sony is definitely something I would be advising. I'm not exactly sure which cameras I'd be advising because it's also depending on your budget. And also I don't really know any of the Sony lenses, but I think in terms of value for money, Sony, pretty badass. And also Pentax with their K3, K5s and K3Ss and all that kind of stuff. The image quality in terms of dynamic range which I've seen, I've been well impressed with that kind of stuff coming out of them. So, what I'm hoping for the next year, I'm hoping finally a Nikon D400, maybe a Nikon D700 replacement, because so far it's still not the Canon, it's still not the Nikon D610, that's not the D700 replacement. And Canon definitely going to have to come out with the 7D Mark II some point soon. Lens-wise, no idea. There's going to be some cool ones coming out, but I hope the smaller cameras, such as the Fuji X's of sorts, get some good lenses there. Because that would be really intriguing me to kind of go, I don't want to bring this big heavy camera with me, I just want a small camera, which is awesome. At the moment, I'm just using my camera phone for everything. If the situation recalls me to take photos and they're not important, so in other words, like a birthday party or opening Christmas presents, I'm 99% going to be taking my camera phone rather than any camera that I've got. And that even includes the GoPro Hero 3, which is obviously a very small little camera, and I'm just using that for video stuff. That was the other thing that came out this year, the GoPro Hero 3 Plus Black Edition, which I've been using, which you can see a lot more of that being used in the exercise channel, which I've got up with a link to down below as well. So in other words, yeah, this year was cool, loads of stuff, loads of kind of updates of everything, nothing really blowing away apart from, the most impressive thing this year was the terms of marketing for the Nikon DF and how much of a roar that created. But other companies, I think, really need to up their marketing game. How well they really influence people out with the market. That's the thing. So in other words, Sony Alpha A7, whenever that came out, lots of Sony photographers were like, oh, this is amazing, oh my god, I can't believe everyone doesn't know about that. Everyone who's not really into Sony were just like, yeah, whatever, and anybody who's not even into photography were just like, a Sony what? A Walkman? So what I'm thinking is that a lot of the companies really, to get a bigger market share, have to impress out with just their local audience. So not just their camera fans. So Nikon just going, look, we've got a new camera for you Nikon people. It should be a camera that comes out where even like Home and Garden magazine goes, oh my goodness, this camera has come out and is amazing to take photos of your garden, or something like that. And that's what I think is most impressive about GoPro, is they're not necessarily the best camera. They're not the most ergonomic or anything like that. They're not the best. But the amount of money that they've put in, pretty much all the profit that they got, they pumped straight back out into doing advertising and making sure that was on all the TV programs. If you're watching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, that was the cameras that they had on their helmets. If you're watching Cops Camera Action or something in the UK, they usually had about 3 GoPros in the car. If you're watching Catfish on MTV, I'm sure he's got about 3 GoPros floating around inside the car as well whenever he's doing that kind of stuff. So they're just pumping them out everywhere and doing an amazing video, which I think GoPro wins at on everything. So whenever they said the GoPro Hero 2 came out, the video there, so good. The Hero 3 came out, so good again. Watch those videos, I'll put links to them down below. And they were so awesome that people out with the action sports camera wearers were like going, that's so cool, I want to buy this camera even though I don't do mountain biking off cliffs. So that's where GoPro is the absolute winner of everything this year and last year, just because of the amount of marketing that did. It transcended simple camera geekery. And I suppose that's where the Nikon DF almost did. Very close to it. Anyway, that's just my thoughts of 2013. Hope that helps. Bye-bye.